HW's Best of NAMM. This is the best stuff that I saw at NAMM 2025. Now, I did have several meetings with like brands and manufacturers and stuff, and I can't tell you all about those, but what I can tell you about, let's talk about what everyone's already talking about. My best of NAMM overall, all around, has got to be the QC Mini. Why? What is it? Look, you got a lot of people complaining online, it costs too much. You got other people saying, why wouldn't I just buy the whole one? But at the same time, it's sold out. So the proof's in the pudding. There's a market demand for this. A lot of people want it. Here's who I think this is for. If you are a person looking to run a modeler on the floor that is realistic, easy to use, and you can use as an all-in-one unit, this is not for you. If you are a person who's already incorporating a QC on your pedal board and you're adding pedals to it, there's a good chance that you are using some other switcher other than your QC. Enter the QC Mini. If you're using a Morningstar, you run loops, pedals in loops, you send MIDI commands to other pedals, then what the QC Mini represents is it's only a little bit taller, tiny bit taller than the HX Stomp. It's only about 30 to 50% wider than the HX Stomp. What the QC Mini represents is a QC brain. It's a QC brain, and in terms of real estate, it's the most capability per square inch that you can get in any pedal on the market right now. Did you hear what I just said there? It's the most capability that you can get on the market per square inch. If you are pedal board space conscious, it's for you. If you're already running a Morningstar, you've got stuff in the loop, you're sending MIDI, this is going to replace your HX Stomp, or it's going to add to it, or it's going to replace whatever modeler or UA pedals or whatever you're using, because it takes up less space than probably two UAs do, and it does the same thing. And that gets me into my next point, why this is such a great product. Guys who are in like the worship world, they've been asking, I want a capture device that does stereo captures. That's what this is. On top of that, the new V2 is great. On top of that, you have the verbs, which they just added new verbs. You have the delays. You have all the capability. To me, if you can handle an HX Stomp that's 30% larger, and money's not an option. And I think to a lot of these guys, I see HX Stomps on boards all the time, where the HX Stomp is one of the cheaper pedals on the board. They got Strymons and they got a Klon and they got all this. Those guys are gobbling up these things because this thing lets you do so much more. I even saw some people say, I'm going to add this in the loop of my QC, which is wild to think about, but it actually makes some sense. You effectively have built an octo Cortex. And you can do that. You can put it in the loop, and if you ever are running out of DSP or you want to assign amps or something to something else, you can. You're never going to run out of DSP if you use it that way. And I think here's the other thing. A lot of the metal guys, a lot of the metal bands, and the people who are like kind of in the fractal world of the touring world and stuff, they're keeping QCs in drawers in their rack unit. I think they replace those with these. Or I think when they go to buy units in the future, they end up just buying those. They're smaller, so you can probably fit two of them in a rack drawer rather than just one, or you can fit two and maybe something else. Maybe you can have your power supply just sitting in there as opposed to like, the cord running out and another thing. The QC wasn't really wasn't too big already, but instead of two drawers, you can kind of get it in one drawer now. It also makes it really easy to have a redundant backup in the same drawer where you literally just switch over or literally unplug each cable and go in to the other one. I'm not sure if if you're someone running that doesn't already have it plugged in for the backup, for the redundant backup. But I just think, a lot of people complain it's too little a price difference. Why wouldn't I just get the big one? If that's what you're thinking, it's not for you. It's for the people who have been saying, gosh, I wish this unit was a little smaller. And they were already using a QC because it is kind of a small unit already. It's the smallest of the big units. And it sort of has existed in this space where small enough to put on a pedal board with other pedals, but it starts to be a big pedal board at that point. Now, You got this thing on a pedal board with other pedals. You do a little air stomp. You can run 3 or 4 pedals with it. You can have a Morning Star, put some stuff in a loop. You can put pedals in the loop of this thing, and you're probably pretty good. So, I don't know. It's a really nice device. I think it looks really good. The ones at NAMM were literally glued down so people didn't steal them. I don't know if they're glued or what, but they were stuck to the table. I can tell you that much. So that's my best of NAMM. Second best thing I saw at NAMM, it's the new Bad Cat Hot Cat, that mod series or custom shop Hot Cat. I forget what they call it exactly, but it's. Let me tell you something. My friend Michael August kind of walked me through that amp a little bit. Bad Cat is just having such a resurgence right now. They're having such a resurgence right now of just great stuff. The Samson stuff that they did with the Era 30 was amazing. Rest in peace, Mark. That was so sad. I got the opportunity to meet Mark last year and just told him how much I loved his designs and stuff. And he walked me through that Era 30. And one of the pleasures of my gear journey to be able to talk with such a great mind in the amp world and hear how he made an iconic design from his brain even better. And it does appear to be even better. And it's one of the few amps that I have not, that I want to get my hands on, that I really want to profile. Both of those amps I'd love to get my hands on. Maybe I'll reach out to Bad Cat, and I'd love to get my hands on this. I'd love to do videos on them. I'd love to talk about how to use them well. And I just think they sound phenomenal. Let me tell you about this Hot Cat. Because at first I thought, I've owned Hot Cats before, No. This thing has a channel switch and a high-low, like a boost kind of switch. And when you go low and on channel 1, it was so full and bluesy. They were like, oh, it's kind of Fendery. And I was like, really Fendery? Not like AC30? As soon as I heard it, I heard this lush, beautiful, low-end thump. It sounded like Robert Cray's tone to me. I was playing a guitar I wasn't that familiar with, but it just sounded like, how Robert Cray gets those beautiful sound out of that I think he uses a matchless C30 at times, and he's used super reverbs and stuff. This thing just sounded like American-esque in its voicing, but almost super reverbish. You know what I mean? And not really exactly like a super reverb, but just having the tendency of an amp that reminded me of that, if that makes sense. It had a beautiful low end, scooped middle, lovely in the top end, and that was on the lowest setting. You could then boost that, and it kind of sounded like a hot rod-ish American amp. But then, in the past, I've noticed Hot Cats, they were hot. They're a hot Bad Cat, right? This thing was tight, hard rocky, sizzling in the high end in the best way. In the past, I played some other Hot Cats that I thought, they kind of could do the higher gain thing, but not the most convincing. More like they almost felt to me like it could do the rock thing, but in a very Bad Cat way. It was like one of the other Bad Cats, but more gain. Dude, this thing felt like a full-on rock amp. I'm talking chug in the bass, sizzle on the high, mids were beautiful, scooped, kind of just the right crunch. You know what I mean? Crunch is what I would describe it. Solid rock crunch. And then you could totally get that thing just doing whatever you wanted with pedals. And I didn't have an opportunity to play it for a ton of time. And, the saying is you play it at NAMM, you haven't, I tried it at NAMM, I haven't tried it at all. I heard just what I heard there for a few moments. And I probably played it for 7-8 minutes with Michael just moving the knobs around. And what I heard, I instantly could hear from my familiarity with Bad Cats and just, everything in that world. I was like, wow, this is incredible. So I'm going to get one. I'm definitely going to do some captures of it and do some videos. Hey, Bad Cat, if you want to work on some videos on that or something, I'd love to get something in my hands and do that. I'd love to make a walkthrough and show people what I really like about that amp, because I identified from the knobs, I can remember 2 tones from moving a couple things that I was like, these sound excellent. But I bet there's 3 to 5 really awesome tones if I start working with the switches, where I could go sweet spot, sweet spot, sweet spot, sweet spot. Works with a Strat, works with a Tele like this, works with higher gain stuff like this, Les Paul, more classic stuff like this. Like, that would be a fun video to do. I'd love to do that. Anyway, that was a really exceptional thing. And I did see a couple other amps that looked interesting to me that didn't wow me as much, but other honorable mentions, I'll say, the Vox thing from Friedman sounded interesting. I didn't get a super long chance to check that out. I just saw it and heard it a little bit. And then, what was the other amp somebody had? I went by the Blackstar booth. Their stuff sounded really good. Their modeler sounded really good. That gets me into my number 3. Blackstar released this little, the third best thing that I saw at NAMM for my top 3 here. Blackstar released this little desktop amplifier player thing. But here's the thing. You can get on Tone 3000 and you can like wirelessly over Bluetooth, I think it's over Bluetooth, maybe it's Wi-Fi, I don't know. You can put on any Tone 3000 NAM capture from NAMM right onto that thing. So you can like sit there and just try any tone on Tone 3000, which is incredible because it's all NAMM stuff. I'm going to have a couple packs available up there very, very soon. I'm about to redo the whole Tone Junkie offering up there, have some stuff, and even have a couple like packs that are free up there that you'd have to pay for on the website. So it's sort of an incentive to go over to Tone 3000 and check out what they're doing. If you don't know, Tone 3000 is just like sort of the directory or repository for all publicly available NAMM captures and stuff, and it also is a great tool to train your NAMM captures and your NAMM tone models after you get the reference sound. And they're working on a new thing called A2, which is going to be a scalable version of NAMM, so a full version. And then if you want to create a hardware device that plays NAMM but you don't have the DSP to do the full version, it'll scale down. It'll solve the problem that some people have now of taking NAMM captures and converting them through some other process, which often changes the EQ. This will reduce the quality without changing the sound, if that makes sense. Your EQ should still sound, the same. And the same way that you can change like an IR, the quality of the IR, in the same way you can do that, you'll be able to scale down this NAMM capture. And so it'll work on smaller devices for companies that want to make hardware that want to utilize NAMM, but don't have the DSP required to run the full thing. And then, of course, we saw some new units at the show that look like they're going to be NAMM capable. There was something called X-Wrecker. It's not out yet, from a company who, the guy Lee, nice guy, he was talking to me. He must have told me 10 times they make cell phones. So they make cell phones. But that unit actually used a CPU and a GPU, so it was running full NAMM. So it wasn't running into the DSP issue. But all that to say, that little desktop amp really seemed to be the most awesome thing. If Blackstar could put that on all the other modelers that they put out, that would be like a real game changer, I think. I really do think so. I think that would kind of become the go-to NAMM player. And once A2 is ready, which I heard through a birdie under, I don't know if I should say this. I heard through a birdie that I can't say when, but it was soon. Way sooner than I thought. I was like, how long is it going to take to complete A2? And I was talking to the big man himself, Steve. And Steve just said, yeah, it's. And I was like, oh, that's very soon, Steve. That's like soon. He was like, yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, but we can do it. I was like, I like this guy. I like Steve. I really like Steve. Anyway, that is my best 3 of NAMM. And HW.